Hope everyone's doing great on this nice sunny morning.
We are doing well.
Doing great.
Yeah.
Should have taken this call outside.
It's a bit sunnier here in Port
The
Hope.
weather.
Well, why don't we get started, John, and then I'll just letting more people in because we don't want to take up too much time. Before John gets started, first off, hi everyone, Erica Segi with Northumberland CFDC and also Venture 13 Board of Partners. Welcome. Thanks everyone for taking the time to join us today, and a special thank you to our panel of local thought leaders. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to all of us today. Really excited to hear from everybody. Just so everyone knows, this event will be recorded, so this content will live on after this. We will post it on the Venture 13 program page, and I will tweet that out as well and share it so that others can view, and you can also relook at it for content. We ask anyone who's outside of the panel to just put your computer on mute, or your iPhone or phone. We'll have a Q&A at the end. You could either ask a question, or there is the chat feature that I'll be monitoring, so you could post a question there as well, and we'll look at that at the end. We have about 5 questions we're going to cover with our panel. John Hayden from Northumberland CFDC will be our moderator. And we hope that this is an interactive session, and then we'll speak about some next steps at the end as well. So without further ado, John, I will pass it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Erica. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being with us on behalf of the team at Northumberland CFDC and Venture 13, including Melissa Graham and Lauren Reed and everyone who helps to make this kind of content possible. We're just so glad to have you with us. So let's jump in. We have a really cool panel of people today to talk about the topic of digital transformation. So I'll just let you know who's with us. First up, we have Marquis Murray, who is a digital entrepreneur and agency founder of an outfit called Ditto. We worked with Marquis recently on a project called Delia, which is a new fintech offering at Northumberland CFDC. And we have Carrie O, who is Juno Award-winning singer-songwriter and 1/3 of the group that you know as The Good Lovelies. Creator, entrepreneur, somebody with real social reach, and an important part of the conversation today. Thank you, Carrie, for being with us. We've got Chalmers McKean, who is not only the owner of a local small business, Assured Auto Repair, but is also a tech startup founder of a venture called NXG. Next generation, this is really very important, I think, to have a Gen Z perspective today with insights into social media and digital marketing, et cetera. So really awesome to have Chalmers with us, and I've been working with him over the past 6 months or so on his software as a service, unit economics, projections, business model, et cetera. So really interesting perspective there. And then the man who really came up with the idea for today's session is Steve Wilkes, who is joining us today from Get in the Loop, Northumberland, also a member of the Venture 13 community. And each of our panelists are going to tell you a little bit more about themselves and their companies in a moment. But I wanted to first ground us a bit in the discussion. So I think it was maybe a few weeks ago that Steve and I were on a call and just talking a bit about the question of digital transformation. So this was an important question before the pandemic. And then when the crisis hit, it became even more underscored and more important, came into relief. So interestingly, I'd say we have several hundred clients all told across all of our programs, all kinds of different businesses. And it's been interesting to see what the response has been to the pandemic. So I'd say, interestingly, there's a spectrum. So for some, this was frankly like an existential threat, the interruption of business continuity. And so for some entrepreneurs, they were immediately going into survival mode. For others, it was more of like a holding pattern. So they had to dial back, step back, and look at what they needed to do to stay in business, but not make any big moves per se. And then there's probably like a third group who, I think as Steve would have described it, really like leaned in to the question of digital transformation and innovation. And so for those groups, they were actually like pivoting, innovating in almost a direct response to the pandemic. So you might have seen an article in Northumberland News recently from the Northumberland Manufacturers Association talking about some of our local manufacturers and what they're doing to actually produce medical equipment and other personal protective equipment and supplies, who really leaped into action to create some of the solutions that would be needed for essential workplaces. And then you look across Canada, and there's been some pretty innovative responses in terms of like rapid, testing for COVID-19, et cetera. So, and then maybe for some of those innovators, they couldn't directly respond to the pandemic, but what they could do is stage for a post-pandemic world. So there was sort of this unique interval, an inflection point where we knew the world was going to be changed, it was going to be different, and we needed to sort of project ahead and say, how can we stage ourselves for success? So for some of those businesses, even if they weren't really carrying forward in normal operations, nonetheless, they were starting to prepare. So for some, I'd say there's two main parts of that. On the one hand, there was the need to say, okay, we knew before that we needed to be efficient, and we needed automation, we need technology, we needed digital, a digital kind of platform. And a lot of that was about optimizing our workflow and our business processes and making them more efficient. So we knew we had to do that. And then the other one was more about like the social media, advertising, promotion, marketing side of the equation. And we knew also that we needed to spin that up. But how are we going to do that? I think that's sort of the main question. But many organizations, including ours, you could see them really accelerating that process of transformation. So starting to use tools like Slack or Calendly. Like for us, we started using DocuSign Power Forms, and things like that really just made things much more efficient and much more possible. And particularly in a world where you were immediately thrown into the scenario of having distributed teams, virtual meetings, Zoom, all of this. And another interesting project we were working on was the Producer Alliance that's been using distributed manufacturing and rapid prototyping technologies to develop, to produce and donate face shields for frontline workers. And that was really fascinating because that's a group of something like 100 individuals and organizations in a distributed network, coordinating all of their efforts on a unified platform to 3D print parts, assemble, and then distribute these face shields based on an open source design by Prusa to frontline workers. And it's been hugely successful. We blasted past something like 4,000 units on our way to 5,000. And there's no other supply for this currently. So I think without some of those tools, even things like, Google Sheets and Docs and forums and all of that, I don't think you can move rapidly and move quickly, and move effectively. So I think these are some of the, the kind of the nature of the present conjuncture, if you will. And the big question is what we want to tackle today is what is to be done. And I know for people that are on the call today, for some of you, you've already started your digital journey. And for others, perhaps that is just beginning. And we've got all kinds of businesses, small business, retail, storefront, manufacturers, tech companies, and we realize there's no science to this. It's not like there's a definitive answer for a cookie cutter answer for everyone, but we think that we can give you some ideas and jumpstart discussions. And we're going to also come back to you at the end of this with an offer to set up follow-on one-on-one sessions so that we can drill down with each of you, and you can actually speak to our panelists and carry that journey forward. So I hope that's just been a quick overview of where we are and what we want to talk about today. And what I want to do first is actually turn it over to our panel so that they can tell you quickly a little bit about themselves, their companies, and then we'll get started with the rest of the conversation. So maybe I'll put it over to Steve. Steve, you were the progenitor of today's session, so we'll start with you.
All right, thanks, John.
Thank you.
So a little bit about Get in the Loop. So Get in the Loop is a mobile marketing platform that's designed to connect people and businesses, specifically in our local community. It's an affordable way in which small business can get a footprint on people's mobile phone through an app. I've been out having lots of conversations, and we can chat more about that. But I don't want to dominate too much on the intros, so let's throw to Carrie, and you're up next.
Hi, I'm Carrie O. I am 1/3 of the band Good Lovelies. We are in Toronto, Newcastle, and Port Hope right now, not together, not on tour, where we make the bulk of our income and are currently faced with how to continue to communicate with our audience who is local and not, so we are doing our best to find different ways to do that during the times where I'm not allowed to invite 700 people in a room and shake their hand. So I'll pass along.
Thanks,
Thanks, John.
All right, Chalmers.
Hey, yeah, so my name's Chalmers McKean, and I'm a tech startup founder from here at Cobourg, Ontario. And basically, we're building a reinvented social media platform that's going to allow our users to monetize their traffic. Basically, that means we're disrupting the digital marketing industry. So basically, we're hoping to build a new revenue stream for our users.
Nice.
And then I'll pass along to Marcus.
Let's do it. So my name is Marquis. I founded a company called Ditto. And so what we do is work with companies to produce anything from process documents to standard operating procedures, help them implement workflow automation, work with tools like project management systems like Asana. We work with HubSpot and Slack, Zoom, all of those tools that we're all now becoming more familiar with. We work to integrate them so that work can become easier for these businesses that are displaced. And up until about 7 weeks ago, there was this global event that kind of forced me into this pivot. So my background is actually in digital marketing, and I founded a company 3 years ago called Media Crate, where we do inbound marketing, social media, paid advertising, SEO, anything under that umbrella. And so I'm excited to chat today and share a little bit about that and how we can use what we know in this time now. So thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you, Marquis. All right, let's get started. So we've got a thought starter for the panel. So when we talk about this digital journey, obviously it's quite daunting, and it can be a bit difficult to look at that and say, well, yeah, so what should I be on Asana? Should I be on Slack? Should I be automating my social media marketing like on Hootsuite or something, or HubSpot or whatever it is? It's pretty daunting and pretty challenging. So I want to suggest that maybe it's just a matter of getting started. So building value, trying things out, iterating. It's kind of a heuristic thing. And maybe good enough is the new perfect. Just get moving. What do you guys think?
Sure, John, I completely agree with this thought starter in the idea that as someone looks at their business, they may not have a website. They may only have a Facebook page as an anchor point in that digital arena.
Yep.
And so when we start to look at consumers and their behaviors, they want to be able to look at a Facebook page or an Instagram page. They want to look at a website. And if there's a store in which they could procure through that website, they want to take a look at that so that they feel pretty comfortable about the organization that they may conduct business with. So from a business perspective, we just don't have time to do things to make it perfect every time. I mean, you run a small business and then you have to have your accounting hat on, and then you've got your web hat on, and then you've got to run the store, and you've got to do the deliveries now, and there's so many things competing for your time, and you need all of that energy and focus. So I love this idea of when you look at your business and you're thinking about making a move into a particular area of this digital transformation, good enough is a great start. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but just get that footprint established.
I'll add on to that if I can, Sean. Like, I find like a lot of businesses are hesitant to say put themselves out on social media to do video because they think that they have to have, you know, big pieces of equipment and lights and all the fancy stuff, when we all have, you know, production studios right in our hands, pretty much glued to them 24/7. Get on your phone. If it's a website, like Steve said, people are looking to see friends right now. They're looking to stay connected. If they can get on a website and order something quickly, as long as you have the functionality and you're working on those things in your business, I think that is the good enough, right? Once things kind of settle and we stop wearing all the hats, or things start to make a bit more sense, then I think we can work towards perfection. But for right now, it's just about kind of survivor mode.
Yeah, I tend to see that a lot with like technology entrepreneurs, especially engineers. Like they can have a really extended pre-commercial phase where they're just trying to get everything lined up, perfect design, perfect website, you know, and this drive to perfection like tends to put off the commercialization. And then on the other side, you have like a lean startup methodology, which is like, get the minimum viable product out there, start getting like paid customer feedback, and don't worry about it not being perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this idea of getting started is really important, and hopefully we might inspire some people to get moving today. But I don't know, Carrie, like when you guys started when you and Caroline and Sue started the band, did you have a digital strategy from the beginning, or did you like what was that like?
Yeah, no, I mean, we're 13 years in, and we had actually, luckily, no strategy. Was like we have 12 songs. I think we can make a record. And as you know, as it's coming up to it was just our 13th band birthday, I get the reminder that we all joined Facebook that year. And it all, you know, we started a Facebook page. We started a mailing list when we went on tour. It wasn't planned. It wasn't like, I can't start until I have the knowledge of how to use the equipment. It was just collect the information and do it. Honestly, I often go back to that when we get stuck now, even in trying to connect with our audiences right now, trying to, there's 3 different people in our band that operate on different levels of good enough, you know, getting it better, and then perfection. And the quicker you get that video out that says, come visit us today on our Facebook Live to say hi, the more you can connect with your people, instead of trying to set up the perfect studio and the perfect sounding mic and the perfect looking background. And we're finding moving, every time I get caught up in, you know, we have to keep the standard, I just remember that the basics of just human connection, while we can't share that in our perfect environment, this is good enough, and it's working ish.
Yeah, so that's great. So maybe we'll go on to our first question. We had some ideas sent to us from the DBIA's local chambers and their membership. So one of the common themes was a request to just have like a launch plan. Like, give me, what do I need? So what do I need to take my business online? Like, that's a foundational question. I think maybe it would be helpful just to start there and I put it out to the group. Maybe Marquis, you could tackle it. If maybe a client comes up to you, how do I take my business online? What do you say?
Perfect. Just start off nice and easy here. How do you take your business online? So I know we're talking to a lot of, or we're connecting with a lot of people today that have kind of shops in the downtown or in various areas, and maybe they're at home. And I was chatting with a client earlier this week, and they had said that, you know, when we got the news of the lockdowns and things changing, that they were just in this like frantic get home as soon as possible, get out of the shops, get out of the offices, and no one was really thinking about, okay, what do we do with what we have here? So I think if you have a physical location, if you have an office, the first thing you need to do is assess what you have. If you have inventory and you haven't reported on it in a while, I would say that is number one. Figure out what you have. Maybe go back and figure out what your top 10 most popular products are, right? I think this is the good enough is better than perfect mentality. What are the top 10 things that have sold the most in the last 6 months, and work to get those online right away? I mean, tools like Shopify, Squarespace make it really easy to do that. They have a lot of support on those platforms to help you get up and running, to provide fulfillment through Canada Post or FedEx, whatever it may be. I think that is definitely step number one, is making sure that your customers can still access your products. If you have any kind of mailing list or database, it would be connecting with them, letting them know that you're now online, that there are those options there. Social media is a great tool to get that out as well. I don't know how far you want me to go here.
No, keep going. This is great.
Yeah.
I'm writing it down.
Okay. I know, like, coming from the marketing background, a lot of people are hesitant to spend, right? Use their ad dollars right now. And I would say now is the perfect time, if you've never done any paid advertising, to experiment with it, because prices are lower than they have ever been. There's a lot of competition, sure, but your money can definitely go a lot further. So taking those 10 products, say they're on Shopify, boosting some ads to those product pages, getting them outside of your local area, because you're online, you have the luxury of reaching more people. So maybe I'll wrap it there for now, but I would say in inventory, get it online and communicate with the people that are close to you.
Great. Does anyone else want to give some advice on a launch plan for taking your business online?
Sure. John, there's a couple of other things. I mean,
yeah,
Marquis, you mentioned Spotify or Shopify as one particular option, without necessarily endorsing one technology over another technology.
Sure.
If you're a business that doesn't have a website, there are options like GoDaddy, Wix. There are different, relatively easy, relatively straightforward approaches to building a website for your business to just get that footprint out there. The one thing that I think about in terms of how to take your business online is, I always sort of start to think about, how does my customer buy what it is that I sell? And if I have an understanding as to how they buy, then I would frame my approach to cater to the way and the behaviors that customers buy. And so if that means you've got inventory and you put it on a website and you have an e-commerce approach, there are some very cost-effective ways in which you can deliver that quickly.
That's actually a great point, Steve. It kind of leads us into the second question about how to market the business online. This is a basic question of marketing. Do you understand your target customer segment? Do you understand how they behave and what they do, and what platforms they're on, and what influences their decisions? And so how does that, knowing the audience, knowing the who the customer is, their profile, is that something that we know already, or is it something that we need to research and sort of take some time to dig into?
So I think that for small businesses, they're playing a role right now, which is in this moment, we can call it the pandemic. I like to think of it as the great accelerator. This is the moment in time where small businesses are really playing catch up on a lot of these disciplines like social media and e-commerce and these types of things. But they know their customers really well. Now they just have to figure out, how do I reach them using digital technologies? That's interesting. And on that front, I found this fascinating working with Chalmers.
from a Gen Z perspective, Chalmers, like I'd really like to hear, what about the younger generation? And I just think that the patterns of behavior and the types of platforms that are being used, and they're changing so rapidly. It's hard to get a handle on it. We tend to like default to like certain assumptions about what channels are, you know, reaching different audiences. But I feel like whenever I hear your perspective, it really reminds me that I might have a lot of work to do to understand like what a 19-year-old perspective might be on this. And so these are emerging demographics. So how do we understand that? Like, give us your perspective.
So what I also found with taking the business online isn't just through your digital marketing, but also through the software that you run your business with. If it's management software, banking software, inventory software, and it's like Marquis said as well, the inventory software is very important with knowing for your e-commerce as well as your supply management software. And a lot of things that I found when I walked into my parents' business, and there was a lot of software that we needed to run our time management a lot better so that we can focus on social media and the marketing tools and the relationship with customers. And the other thing that I was always a big fan of was supporting customers beyond your service and really understanding where they are and where they're coming from and why they're using your service and not your competitors. And I think there's a lot of relationship tools that we can use with today's social media and all the software tools that we should really be able to develop a relationship with our customers past business online as well.
So what's the customer profile for for your auto repair shop?
So you know what, there's a lot of customers that are, you know what, they don't have millions of dollars to pay for the parts and labor. And what I find with a lot of our markup is just through our supply management software. And what I find with my customers is a lot of them are struggling to make the payments, and you have to be able to know your customer, to know what kind of parts and what kind of service that you're going to be able to sell. If you're not going to worry about upselling your customer, to make sure that they're very satisfactory and that they're satisfied with your service, and make sure that they didn't get price gouged or anything like that. But really building the relationship with your customers come from firsthand or through social media, and making sure that you take the time out of your day to really understand your customers just through questions and stuff like that as well, I'd say.
So do you think like every type of business can benefit from this kind of process of building these platforms and processes for engagement?
I honestly definitely do. And when it comes down to my business that I'm developing, is the best advertisement is word of mouth. And what I find with social media is it is word of mouth, and especially with affiliate marketing. And when it comes down to, and it's like my auto body repair facility, as long as it's not my social media business. But what I find with the best customers are the racing guys, the guys into cars and the girls into cars, and the people that are doing late model racing and all those things. They have a really big step towards their friends and family that, hey, they have a good understanding of that service. And they say that, hey, Assured's really awesome because they look after the parts department, and they can look after the customer relationship to the way of that they're making it a cost-effective service.
Wow. Anyone else want to jump in on this discussion of like reaching your customer and building the right systems?
I can definitely add to it unless Carrie was just...
You go for it.
Yeah, okay, cool. I think like on the e-commerce side, or because we're talking about transitioning here, I think for a long time, like customer experience has been like really one-sided, right? I'll give you a really good example. I mean, social media is tearing that down. People are giving their feedback right away in the comments. People are sending direct messages the first time, and like they often go unread or unanswered, but I think there's a lot there to understanding your customer and giving back. A really good example of how to stay connected is I frequent Soft Mock maybe once every 6 months in the Oshawa Center, and I'll buy a pair of shoes, and I'm on their email list, and they'll remind me at least once a week that there's a new style of shoe, or that summer's coming and I need to get, you know, new loafers or something like that. And they're always sending discounts, new product reviews, things like that. They'll send surveys from time to time. Does this make sense to you? Do you like this? What style? Right? Setting special promotions on products. So I think beyond, you know, buy now, there's a lot of there's a huge opportunity, sorry, to ask those questions, to see what people like, to get that feedback, and then to just continue communicating with them. Like, the worst thing you can do at this point is to do nothing, right? Go dark, don't post to social, don't send any emails. People are looking to consume right now. They're looking to be informed right now. They're looking to be educated right now. So listen, ask the questions, and then respond. I think like that's what we need to be doing right now as we shift to this new normal.
Wow. Carrie.
Yeah, we're finding that exact when this first hit, and we took a hit on gigs and like we had to stop flying, obviously, getting our gigs. We lost basically the next 6 months at least, whatever we are all facing of possible shows, and something that we had built quite up. We did have a physical, visceral, painful reaction to that, and went dark for 2 weeks. We didn't know what to say and how to say it. I mean, getting over that initial hump, I was happy we did, and opened back up to our audiences, and each of us having, we're a band and we're a brand, but we're 3 individuals in 3 very different situations. 2 of my bandmates have children at home with them and can't just quickly, start home recording and get the music running again, so we have our next singles to sell and to put out into the world. But what our audience wanted, and what we realized they wanted, and what they were craving after going dark, was us, that we were there, that we were figuring it out, that Caroline was at home with 2 children screaming in her head. They wanted to see that picture. They wanted that personal touch. We had, because we posted about the lost work, and that we were trying to stay connected through Zoom, having some very difficult latency issues trying to sing in 3-part harmony on Zoom. Don't try it, it doesn't work. But it was fun, and we posted a clip of us trying to do exactly that. And that we were, struggling to figure out what was coming next. And some fans reached out wanting to give us advances on shows or buy bulk CDs so that they could give them to their clients when they opened up again. And it was a real realization for me that our audience, like in our work, we get a lot of us on stage and speak about our personal lives. It is a very personal job, and we need to also market the products that we have for sale and do sponsored posts on all social media platforms. But I think the personal connection, I'm watching a couple of businesses in town doing this really well, where they immediately put all their products online. And I love this one bakery in Port Hope that I go to all the time, and they will post a personal story and remind me there's bread for sale, and I'll zip down there and put my order in online and pick it up at their takeout window. And we're trying to do the same thing with our work, and just keep, put the video on yourself looking tired and saying, hey, I've been here for 18 hours and I can't wait to get you this, fill in the blank product. So we're working there.
Yeah, so we just had a really interesting question from Karen Major. Just to split this out, I mean, we've been talking in the vein of direct B2C marketing, but some of our audience are doing B2B, like business to business type of ventures. So could we maybe Steve or Marquis, you could speak to this question, like, how do we do all these things and engage with our like in an enterprise environment or with a small business clientele if we're selling to business?
Yeah. So the question is, how is marketing in a B2B environment on social media different? Mm-hmm. Well, at its core, I don't think there's a lot of difference, because essentially, whether you're B2B or B2C, you're addressing a particular problem that someone's trying to address at its core. And so if that happens to be another business, then I think your social marketing, again, needs to have the proper sort of tone and understanding of the current state situation, and still be able to highlight the value that your business brings to another business and what problems that your business solves for another business. The real challenge is, in these days, is having an appropriate tone and messaging so that it comes across as being very empathetic, because it should be, and authentic. If you address empathy and you're authentic in your messaging, then you'll make a good, strong connection with companies that believe in what you believe in. And your messaging in social media really does highlight your beliefs about your business and what it means to the market.
Yeah. That's interesting. So another couple of terms that were mentioned earlier, I just wanted to highlight was affiliate marketing and influencer marketing, because I think increasingly these have both come into play in the recent times. So maybe keeping on the aware of B2B versus B2C, but Marquis, could you talk about this? Because authenticity and influence are difficult to wrap your head around. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big topic, because I'll touch on influencer marketing quickly and then I'll jump to affiliate. But with influencer marketing, there has been this real shift, and people are craving, and I don't even like using this word, but they're craving authenticity. And so finally they're seeing through the influencers that are clearly just there for a paycheck, right? Brands are starting to see it, consumers are starting to see it, and they're not connecting with those people. So I think brand loyalty and really knowing your audience is super important. So if you are a shop owner and you're now online and you're looking to do influencer partnerships or anything affiliate, I heard someone say one time that you really have to protect your audience and be mindful of them. Who is the person that you're working with? Who are they communicating to? How are they communicating? What are their values? Does it align? Because people can really see through that stuff. And so if it is on the influencer side, I would say be protective of your brand. Make sure that there are key message points that you want the influencer to touch on. If they're doing any product photography or styling and you want your brand to be highlighted in any way, I think you need to make those things really clear, because it can get loose very quickly. The brand itself can fall apart, and you don't want to jeopardize what you've worked so hard to build. And then on the affiliate side, it's the same thing, right? Me being in the B2B space and partnering with platforms that we use all the time, I think it could be really easy for me to be a sales advocate and just promote that stuff on social media, right? I'm a HubSpot partner, we're an Asana partner, we use a process document tool called Trainial, and it'd be really easy for me to say, just go and buy this all the time. But then if I were to put something else into that mix that just didn't make sense for my audience, then I'm not staying true, I'm not being as authentic as I could be. And again, people will start to see through that and start to discredit you potentially. Maybe they become blind to your posts. They see your feed as a means to sell, and nobody wants to be sold to, right? So that just goes again with just being really careful, protecting your brand and being thoughtful of your audience.
Yeah, this is interesting because it reminds me that when you're looking at taking your business online, it's one thing to just say, oh, I'll have a website, I'll have a Twitter feed, I'll have an Instagram account, but there's also the question of social reach. And then how big is it? How effective is it? What are the conversion rates? Because we're ultimately talking about selling, even if we don't want people to know that. Sorry, I just lost my headphone. We don't want people to know that. If you're starting from scratch, how do you get there? How do you hack your way to actually having social reach and then therefore social return on investment? Because if you're spending all this time, and this kind of comes into our our third question, which maybe I'll put up, is all of these things actually cost, you have to invest in it, or cost attached. Whether it's your time and resources, or whether it's actually, subscription services, or paying for content generation, like photography and other things. This is a big endeavor, and you need to determine, will there be a return on that investment, I think. And then we have somebody on the panel who actually has pretty strong social reach, Carrie. Marquis, I've been following, I've mentioned your article series on LinkedIn. that kind of stuff is really important, but it doesn't come out of nowhere. You can't just have it all of a sudden because you want to have it. It takes time to build, and that's part of authenticity. So let's jump into this. Like, how much should we spend? How much should we invest? And what kind of return should we expect on that? And how do we go from like nothing? How do we risk that capital and that investment on social, or on this sort of question of digital transformation, if you will?
I think Carrie's got a great answer for that.
I conflated too many questions, but like Carrie, see, like you have that social reach. I mean, obviously, a lot of entrepreneurs would be highly envious of that. If I'm starting a company and I could start with your reach, that's a match made in heaven, right? But if I don't have that, like, how do I start to build it up, and how much do I invest in it? You know, because it could will it lead somewhere?
Yeah, I mean, you're touching on something that I've been toiling over for people who don't like. I was speaking. We had a Zoom meeting with a bunch of musicians who are trying to navigate what we're doing now, and one of them, who's been in the business as long as as our band has, admitted that she never prioritized having a mailing list. And for us, for years, a big part of like, I don't care if you buy anything on the table, just let me tell you when I come back to your town. So, I mean, whether that's selling or not, they went to the table, they signed up, and I can reach them in this like really personal way where we, you know, they get the goods, they get the deals, they get the stuff first, they get the free song that we don't release to anyone else. So how do you get there? I don't know the answer overnight. And I want to think, I've been thinking about this since we talked last week. I've been thinking about this since it started. And if someone wants to jump in and take over where, you know,
Sure,
go for it. Cause I'm going to, the other side of it is with the reach, trying to do our best to spread the love in another way, like in ours. So if I'm going to, as a Port Hope resident, I'm going to post on the I Love Port Hope Facebook group when I bought something from every grocery store in town, and let you know where it came from and say, hey, these are the people creating things. It's important to me that you go to these stores too, but not like that. Look at this beautiful cheese tray I made with products from all these 5 stores or something. And that's very personal to me. And for the band, it's, how did you go on Bandcamp on Friday? It was free. Every artists could sell their music, and Bandcamp waived all their fees. This was a huge move for a company that takes 15% usually, and that day we all got it. And so we sent all out, you know, that we bought each of us 10 records by 10 other artists. Here, also check them out, doing our best to spread the love in that way. So what we're doing with the reach now is that. How we got there was maybe 13 years of building that list, and the Facebook list and the Twitter list and the Instagram. So if someone else wants to jump in on the building, I'm happy to.
Sure, Carrie. And I love your story in terms of a 13-year build, right? You believe in your music, and your bandmates believe in each other. You believe in the product and the experience that you're bringing to people's lives. And those that follow you have the same or shared belief. And they love your music. And if they love your music, then they're going to tell their friends that may have similar beliefs about that experience and that music. And I think that's how that starts to share sort of organically. And that's how we grow as organizations. To John's earlier question or earlier point around managing costs and how do you get started and how do you make some decisions around what to invest in from a digital perspective, I dial it right back to a real sort of core set of questions.
Ready to the front office, please.
Right? The first question is, what's a new customer worth to me as a business? What does a customer spend on average? And what profit do I develop from just that one customer? So what's my business model look like? What's my customer look like? What's my profit margin look like? And from there, I use that to help establish how many customers do I need in order to make my business successful and sustainable? At what point is that going to happen? Is it going to take me 3 months to get to profitability, 6 months to get to profitability? Because I absolutely believe in the value of the product or service that I'm bringing to the marketplace solves a particular problem. I just need to find people that have that problem or issue that they're wrestling with and have a shared belief. And if that takes me 3 months or 6 months, great. I'd love to come out of the gate with a new business and go buy, you know, a whole bunch of 30-second spots on the Super Bowl, but I can't afford to do that, right? So I've got to start somewhere. So I would pick and choose my social media channels and start to socialize what I believe in on those channels to develop that following. And then it becomes the challenge of converting that over to the e-commerce side of my business to actually facilitate that transaction. How do I make that experience easy and simple? Big businesses have invested a lot of money and have come up with some really clear paths that smaller businesses that can take advantage of if they're very strategic and they're thinking about what platforms and what tools to actually use. And there's a lot out there that are free. I mean, just in my last 7 weeks, I've learned about Zoom meeting, Soho meeting, Google Hangouts. There are a bunch of different free platforms to have a virtual conversation. I didn't have to necessarily select one of them in order to facilitate that dialogue or that communication, as an example.
Yes, I think this idea of like doing that quick exercise on like cost of customer acquisition and like what's the lifetime value of the customer, like that could really help you be a little bit more confident in making the investments, like the marketing investments up front. But I think it's so interesting. It's attenuated to these questions about authenticity again, because are you looking to acquire a customer or gain a follower organically or inorganically? And, you know, a lot of the spends that we put together for digital advertising, like they're inorganic, and that's not building up our authenticity. And now we understand like things might misfire, we're going to learn, and there's going to be some upfront costs. But I think it's still a question, right, of like how much do you budget for this experimental effort to, you know, transform the business on this front. But so we've got to actually, I think we've got some other audience members or people on the call here that really want to drill down to specifics and get your recommendations on platforms, whether it's social media or whether it's more about operations and workflow. So can we, I know we don't want to like just endorse like certain companies, but nonetheless, people need recommendations. So what can we say? Can you give us some of the tools that you use that you find to be most effective? Just like Marquis,
Sure.
Could you like name some of those?
Yeah, sure. I think when it comes to social media specifically,
Yep.
Because we're talking about like just getting going, I mean, at the base level, Canva, everyone has access to it. You can sign up for free. They have thousands and thousands of pre-made templates. You don't have to be a designer. Go and use Canva to create all your social media graphics. When it comes to scheduling and even community management on social media, tools like Buffer or Hootsuite are phenomenal. I would say everyone should have Hootsuite if you're still posting manually from your phone. Their free plan offers up to 3 accounts, so you could have your Facebook, Instagram, and say LinkedIn connected to it. And why I really like Hootsuite, this is not an endorsement, there's no partnership here. Why I really like Hootsuite is they make it really easy. In their dashboard, you have the feed and you can customize what you see. If you just want to see comments, you can see that in one straight column. If you want to see a local area, you can put in a postal code and see all the posts that show up in that area that people have posted from that area. Or if they're posting near and around your business, you can communicate with them and see what's happening as well. It goes out to all the major social platforms. And again, you don't have to pay anything for it. I know we're getting into like time and resource management, a tool that we use for tracking time and like budgeting is called EverHour. And so you can put in whether it's clients or staff that you're paying, whatever it is, and you can track time for all of it. You can do all your invoicing from that one platform. You can set your budgets and get reminders when you're spending too much or when you're getting close to that budget that you set for yourself. There's a lot of tools that again are free to get into that you can use right now to better manage your business and stay connected.
Awesome. Actually, so Chalmers, like, give us your perspective. I think Erica, you were aggressively muting Chalmers because he was shuffling around. We have, but Chalmers, give us your your top picks. Like, what are the most effective platforms?
So you know what? On top of the platforms that Marquis said as well, I think a really important thing is social media marketing agencies on top of platforms. So you know what? Marquis has so much value to retain to his customers because of how much efficiency that he runs through his marketing agency. On top of the platforms, so Facebook is a lot of wasted ad spend. And what I've noticed for at least our shop is the groups. The groups are amazing spot to get organic reach rather than wasted ad spend. But other than that, Marquis nailed it. So.
So Carrie, oh, sorry, Steve, go ahead. Yeah. What are your top picks? And maybe you want to speak a bit about getting the loop too.
We're going to go to Carrie first.
Okay. Carrie, what are your top picks then? Oh, sorry, Carrie, we got you.
No, that was me. That was me.
Okay, yeah.
So we use Hootsuite. We have in addition to the three of us, we contract out a little bit of this stuff, so we don't. So we do spend a little bit of money on our friend who goes by Endemic Marketing, who will take everything, do our Google AdWords, position videos and placements through Facebook. So we are spending a little bit of money on that still, even without our income, just because it's important to us and we don't want to spend our mental time doing that right now. So I would highly recommend her to do that because she's using all these platforms that are mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah, so in one of my businesses, I used GoDaddy to create the website, which took me just basically an evening. It integrates with my calendar, so the customers of that business could go directly to the calendar to book their appointment. It integrates with my accounting system and my point of sale system. I use Square. So I looked for things that were relatively inexpensive, but could all connect together to make it easy for the customer to book the service and pay for the service. I don't spend a lot of time on my website. I'm finding in looking at the analytics that it's not really necessary, at least for that particular business. But yeah, so when I looked at a set of tools, I looked at it from starting with the customer in mind first. How are they going to pay for it? How do I track that? And then how do I manage the inflow or sales funnel with respect to that particular business? So it wasn't overly expensive, which allowed me to be price competitive and help me build that business over a 5-year period.
So let's just quickly, I want to hit on this time management thing and then move to our next topic, our last topic. So with some of our clients, we used to do an exercise where I just sort of like ask people to do a pie chart and divide up like what a typical day looks like. And it's kind of interesting because it would often highlight that people spent like less than 5% of their time on sales. And maybe they were spending a huge amount of time on social media, but there's no revenue attached to it. So not to say that there can't be, but how much of this is like a regular thing where we're devoting daily time to it, or how much of it is about putting the systems together up front and then they start to automate or operate automatically? Like, what kind of time should we be spending on this? Like, Steve, you mentioned like a small business owner wears all these hats. You're just like constantly going, and there's so little time and so little bandwidth, if you will. How do you allocate the right amount of time to this?
For me, it's about being disciplined on my personal calendar.
Okay.
So I allocate time for social media. I allocate time for accounting and touching base on the numbers, so I never lose track of where I'm at. Allocate time for sales. I'm really disciplined about managing a calendar and being able to push away. And as part of that calendar, I have to block out some mental time just to go clear my head, disconnect, and sit down and just have a cup of coffee, not think about anything related to any one of my businesses that I'm running. So I approach it from a disciplined sort of calendar standpoint. You will have crisis management moments where you're going to have to, you see your funnel drying up. So intuitively that you need to go spend some time on the socials, working your email contacts and figuring out where you can develop some new accounts or new business. But once that business starts to really flow through, then it's about executing on each of those projects and delivering value for your clients. And finding that gentle balance for me has been kind of disciplined around the calendar.
So Chalmers, you're running 2 businesses. How do you manage your time?
So I find a lot of my managing of my time has actually, like I said before, was the softwares that we integrated into the business. So there's the management software in the shop. It shows breakdown of how the customers on the hours of each vehicle are getting fixed. So a lot of those flat rate management systems helps with me staying out of the shop and coming back into the office and allowing myself to find the time. And that's also through like the supply management software as well that I mentioned. So a lot of our software comes through the supply management. So it's from like NTD for National Tires, all those Napa and all those places. There's a lot of time that I spend doing estimates, and that takes me away from what I'm trying to do out in the shop. And I find by building those software systems that allow you to do what you need to do, that's how you can find the time for sure.
Cool. Carrie, you were saying.
Yeah, we do a balance of the calendar moves, which usually would involve in a regular time collecting photos, Throwback Thursday photos, music Mondays, or a collection of things all in one Dropbox place with some brief little content copy notes, whether we're going to post it or our marketing woman is doing for us on our behalf. We'll collect it all at once in a half an hour at the beginning of a tour or something, because we know we're not going to have the regular hours she's going to have if we're in Europe and we want this posted in North America timing. And then the other part is using for us the personal side of Twitter or the Instagram stories is sort of this also based around calendar. Like we have our shipping days right now. We're trying to go out just once a week to ship. And it's shipping right from our homes. So the Tuesday and Wednesday, you might see more of us wearing our band's t-shirt and toques, and little pictures we have of the children wearing them, or the husbands or our friends, and reminding people that that's happening the next day. Which is what also works on me, which I like to constantly see what's working for me when I see someone reminding me. I'm going to keep talking about the loaves of bread, but when I am reminded that these products are still available in town, that's when I might pop out and make my order, or, your shampoo or whatever you're looking for. So yeah, it's a mix of discipline, 30-minute dedicated to what do we need for the next 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and what can we do on the spot to show people where we are right now. We happen to be in our home, so you're getting a lot of pictures of my living room. So
yeah.
Yeah, Marky, did you want to add anything? Like also just any last recommendations on any other tools or platforms? Like I noticed, I think you recommend, or you look at Squarespace maybe for some of your clients. Is that what we're talking about, or?
For tools, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'll touch on the time management quickly. I think before, the world changed forever. My calendar looked a little bit differently, but like just generally, if you look at my calendar right now, like Monday and Friday mornings are blocked off. I call them my focus blocks, where I'm working on the things that I want to work on. I silence notifications, and absolutely nobody can reach me. And so if I need to get some focus work done, or some admin, or write a blog, whatever it is, do some social media, that's the time that usually happens. When it comes to even social media, if you're just getting started, like it doesn't have to be a lot. You can spend as little as 30 to 60 minutes a week sourcing information, putting graphics together, getting your week or next 2 weeks set up. Right? It doesn't have to be a lot. As you add more content, if you're doing, like if you want to start a podcast, you're doing videos, or you want to get into blogging, obviously that stuff takes more time. There's community management and going and commenting. That takes a lot more time. But as a minimum, I would say like 30 minutes a week, just schedule that in, and nothing else should ever override that. Yeah, as far as a last tool, I love Squarespace. I've used it for years. It's one of the platforms where everything is like deployable, like within a few clicks. You can get a template based on your industry. All the demo pages are already set up for you. You just have to turn them on, change your logo, change some of the wording. It makes SEO implementation really simple as well. The plans I think start as low as like $8 a month, and all the pricing's in USD, so just always keep that in mind. But yeah, as low as $8 a month. If you're doing e-commerce, I think it's like $18 a month for that, but you can get set up really, really quickly on a platform like that. Steve, mentioned like Wix. There are so many, and they all integrate with the popular payment platforms now. Square is one of them. Stripe is very popular. It hooks into your bank account. Yeah, there's so many ways to get your business up and running online. Right now, I think, yeah, I'll cut it off there.
That's great. All right, so we
forever.
Yeah, Steve.
John, I'll just lean in here a little bit.
Please.
My get in the loop.
Yeah, great.
Offering. So
go ahead.
I've done a lot of research prior to purchasing this franchise and bringing it to this marketplace in Northumberland. And I actually launched 7.5 weeks ago. So just perfect timing for
great timing.
This accelerator moment in our digital lives. But the reason that I'm so attracted and believe in this business is quite simply, you have websites, you have e-commerce, there's predictable analytics and data in terms of the success and how you market that, how you leverage your social position and actually drive people to your business. And the key to me is conversion, right? So you can do all of the great marketing work, but how do you actually convert it into something to grow your business in the form of a transaction or a relationship or however you want to quantify that? And what I discovered was that in this evolution through the use of desktops and mobile sites, there is still a fairly large abandonment at that critical moment in the shopping cart. So we do a lot of work and effort to get people to that cart, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't necessarily translate through in the moment to a purchase. And when I talk about abandonment rates, we're looking at north of 70% abandonment in the shopping cart. So I don't want to scare people off. I'm just saying that it's a lot of hard work to get people to that point, and it's something special that gets them over the edge. And what I discovered was that those companies, and big companies have been moving this direction for a couple of years now, those that are building apps, their abandonment rate in the app is under 20%. So it really does focus in on the customer experience to what makes it easy for the customer. So I'm a big fan of trying to get small businesses into an app that allows people to find something compelling and unique that makes it easy to do business locally. And the mobile phone is in our hand, hours and hours and hours every day. And that's how people are doing their research. They're going to the sites, they're looking at the socials, but they're looking for an app. And when they find that app, they use that app quite consistently. So I'm a big fan of that, and that's what I believe in. And that's one tool. It's not the only tool. It's just one tool in the suite of tools that businesses should consider in order to have that digital experience that I believe customers are looking for.
That's great, Steve. Thank you. All right, let's go to our last topic of discussion, and we've really hit on this broadly, but maybe we could just give any last insights that we want to share with the group on the social media front in terms of building community and building relationships. I guess this kind of circles back to the question of authenticity and social reach and all of this. I mean, for a lot of our small businesses in Northumberland, this is a hyper-local question. These are geographically circumscribed relationships. At least they have been historically, because they're tied to storefronts, they're tied to a local trading area. But of course, as you start your digital journey, you might find that your reach will expand beyond the immediate and the geographic. And that might be part of scaling up your business. So as you embark on this, does anyone have any thoughts about building community and that community engagement piece? That's different than marketing. It's a bit different than selling. It's something beyond that. It's conversational. So yeah, Carrie, what do you think?
I'm just I'm still attached to, I lived in St. John's, Newfoundland for the last 6 years, and I still have all those friendships and businesses still running through all my feeds. I can't let them go, even though I don't live there anymore. And the things that I'm noticing and enjoying, one is a small business owner who runs a very small salon, who is obviously not running right now, and offering videos in her, showing you how to do things with your curly hair is her very specific MO. And she is showing and offering these free tutorials on things she would do if you were in the salon with her. And she's putting them, semi-frequently, maybe once a week, or she's sharing it with the other people that she hired that work for her. I'm finding those ways to stay connected, and she's not looking for you to buy anything. She just wants to say, hey, don't neglect staying tidy for all your Zoom meetings. And I'm enjoying that, and I find that's a really important way to stay connected right now.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, so keeping this conversation going and building community, that it's more than just setting up a social media account. So Chalmers, like you talked about that in the auto repair business, are you actually having conversations with your customers? Like, is it conversational as opposed to just like resharing or posting or whatever?
So about community building is what I've found really big for my shop. So we have a lot of vehicles that are fleet vehicles for businesses here in town for servicing. And what I've found worked really well with reaching out was try to keep it unrelated to your business. So I have a lot of customers come in and ask, hey, do you know a very good plumber in town? So then I'll reach out to Stadke Plumbing and Heating or other companies around me and say, hey, I've had a couple of customers come in here and I just wanted to network with you guys and kind of find out if you're the best option for what they need. And there's a lot of relationship that you can build within the business to business and communities within that I think there's a lot of value that other businesses can share and keeping it unrelated to the business side of things. And I think building your relationship with your customers comes from really understanding not just their financial situation, but where they come from and how and why they're looking for your service. And I think as well as finding out about your competitors also builds you up to say that, hey, I have this value and I can share this amount of value with my business, but I also bring it to the community as well. And I'd like to focus on the small business in our towns as well, I think.
That's interesting. Like, I'm just curious, like, to push this question of how in depth are these conversations? Like, how extended are they? Like, my sense is with the Good Lovelies, it feels like there's discussions happening. I don't know. Do you have discussions? Like, how long does it go when you have interactions?
So when I'm doing an estimate, I find that's my perfect time to get to know my customer, either where they're from or if they have kids or anything with their car that they find or where they bought their vehicles. I find building my relationship with my customers while I'm doing my estimate, I can really find out why they came here. So just the other day, we had two people come in that they had gone to Vandermeer Toyota, but they couldn't book them in for a long enough time. And that there's two people that are driving all the way to Toronto for work. So those are the vehicles that need service every month. So those relationships that you can build by speaking with them, asking questions, and you know what, it is really in detail and finding out their story so that it helps you in your story of your service. And there's a lot of times that you find things out about your customers that you would never even have known without asking.
Yeah. Wow.
I can jump in and say something like really quick, John.
Yeah, Marquis, of course.
Yeah, what I've been doing, I spend a lot of my time on LinkedIn. And so that's where I'm currently doing my research because, like, let's all be honest, we've never done anything like this. We've never experienced or lived through anything like this before. And so for me, launching Ditto 7 weeks ago, there's still a lot of learning and research that we hadn't really gotten to. And so I'll spend a lot of time on LinkedIn sending direct messages to people that I would like to do business with. And I'm going in with the simple approach that, hey, this is something that we're doing, and I want to know a couple of things. Can I show it to you? Can I ask you some questions? And they eventually will get on a call with me, and I incentivize them a little bit, but really I'm just about forming that community and networking, getting to know people. And it's really nice being on these calls, and I'm booking like 2 of them a day. It's really nice being on these calls because for the first time, everyone's at home. they're probably in their PJs, their kids are off camera, and it's like, it's all right. I was on one yesterday and I had my camera off, and the person I was speaking with said, Marquis, I can't see your face. And I said, actually, it's intentional because I'm not presentable. And he said, hey, we're all in the same boat. It's okay. So I went and I took my camera off, and of course I'm in a hoodie and a ball cap. And then my kid came in, but it's okay because we connected on those things. At the end of it, we're all just human beings. We're trying to figure this out for the first time. And now I've connected with a dozen plus of my ideal, clients. I know their pain points. I've asked them questions and how it relates to my business. I know about their life. I've heard their kids' names, and now we're connected online. So like there's real community there, right? Where I can go back to them. And again, the goal isn't always to sell. It shouldn't always be to sell, but it should be to build something that's real. So that's how I'm working through that right now.
Totally agree. This idea of being authentic and empathetic, it really comes down to your actions. My approach on the social media side of my Get in the Loop business, I love local. Look, my wife and I purchased a home in this community. We spent money to live here. We love the downtown vibe. We love the waterfront. And so I just kind of looked at how can I didn't look at this as a sales opportunity. I looked at it as, how can I help? Because there are businesses, and I have no idea the financial position of some of these businesses. There are businesses that need help. And so how can I help has always been my approach. I moved into my neighborhood. You meet your neighbors. Can I help you? You're working on a project. You need a hand. It's always about that way in which you give back to the world in which you are living in. And every person's world is a little bit different. I get that. But I'm always looking to connect with people that are helping me. And if I can help them and that introduces me to others, fantastic. It's just part of the journey of my life. And that's how I've been trying to approach the social media side of things, is to convey that sort of thinking and approach and make sure that my actions are lining up with my commitments to those that I connect with.
Wow,
that's good.
That's great. So maybe on that note, we only have 15 minutes left. So I'd really like to, with your permission, to our esteemed panel, open up the floor to questions from our audience. So probably the easiest way to do this is actually to type a question in. So Jillian had asked about premium services, like for example, LinkedIn Premium or LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and Marquis has responded to that. But does anyone want to talk about like that networking side of things, like in terms of like your personal brand as an entrepreneur, or any comments on LinkedIn?
I can just expand on that and just
clarify
please,
a little bit.
Like I said, like LinkedIn Sales Navigator is great. You have to pay for it. You can get really deep insights into the person you're trying to connect with. You don't have to pay for the platform, but as Jillian outlined, there are limitations on the standard one. I really like the subscription that I have because it gives you insight into their company. Anytime that they share something on LinkedIn, if they reshare a post or if they engage with something that you put out, you get a little notification. It ties right into my CRM, which is HubSpot. And then I can save different people in different lists. And I hate even to use that term because we're not herding cattle here, but it just helps you to better organize the thousands of people that you could potentially connect with, right? And stay up to date with what's happening. So I definitely endorse the tool, or recommend it, I should say. If you're not on LinkedIn, even at the free standard level, just get on it, start talking to people. You can do the same thing on Instagram as well, right? DMs are open for everybody. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid to reach out to people, start those conversations. People are looking for that now.
A quick follow-up here, Marquis, like something that's occurred to me, you mentioned HubSpot. Like I met Brian Halligan at MIT like years ago, and I was so impressed with HubSpot. And then you've got Hootsuite, which is a Canadian company, right? And across the board, you've got like Squarespace, Shopify. And so you think Shopify is like an Eastern Ontario, like Ottawa-based company. Like I've met the founder's wife. She's like from Eastern Ontario. Like, you know what I mean? And you think like, oh, we're Canadian. Should we be like using Canadian platforms, or should we be going with what we think is the best tool?
Oh,
like,
man.
objectively speaking, can you answer that? I can't be the only one who's thinking that. I'm sure.
To stay Canadian?
Yeah, to stay Canadian on digital.
Oh man, I've never thought about that, if I'm being honest. But yeah, I think there is definitely merit in staying Canadian when we can. I mean, there's been a push more than ever lately to shop local, stay local, right?
Yep.
I think the more that we can support our Canadian companies, Canadian businesses, support our local economy, I think, yeah, if we have an opportunity to do that, that's always the answer. Yeah, definitely. Cool that you met all those people though. It's awesome.
Well, yeah, I mean, HubSpot is incredible. And and this goes back to Squarespace as well, US company. And then as Carrie pointed out, Shopify bills in US dollars. So what's up with that? Okay.
I think you raised an interesting point, John, in terms of prior to this event hitting our marketplace, we may not have had sort of a real conscious thought about where that provider comes from. We may have just been sort of digging right down into the weeds about does the solution give me the value I'm looking for? And I think maybe our frame of reference or the lenses in which we look through things is slightly changing as we go through this period of time. I think there's more of a conscious effort of understanding that local businesses are owned typically by local people. Yeah. They sponsor the teams for the kids' events. They sponsor the local arts. They support other local businesses. And so I think people are having a bit of an awareness in terms of the value of that idea of love local and what it means. And so maybe it will change the frame of reference in terms of, I want to do business with someone that's local or provincial or Canadian before they start looking, in terms of a wider spectrum. It comes back to that original theme, good is the new perfect. So if I can find, as an example, Slack, and if it is indeed a Canadian company and it's equivalent in terms of functionality to all of the others, then maybe that's the tipping point for me to make that decision to go with something that's either Canadian or provincial or Northumberland regional or something local.
This is it. It's like one of the startups we funded in one of our regional innovation programs, seed funded. It's an outfit called Fan Saves, a couple of entrepreneurs from Cornwall, Ontario, Shannon Ferguson and Chris McCarthy. But so in the pandemic response kind of moment, they have an app that does loyalty rewards for like fans of sports teams and things like this. But they've really expanded that. But they also developed like a coupon program. Sorry, not a coupon program, a gift card program. And gift cards was one of the first responses to this question of how do we support small business during the pandemic who've had their operations interrupted. So like I tend to think that there's like an interesting dynamic happening right now with Canadian entrepreneurs and Canadian innovators, and maybe there is a chance to support each other and help build up like capacity and success. I don't know. What do you think, the rest of the panel on that question?
Oh, definitely, John. I think people, the longer that we're in this staycation mode,
support each other.
Stay home office mode.
Yeah.
I think that's going to have an impact on our behaviors going forward, really sort of valuing more what's in our immediate point of view, which is when we drive to get that coffee or we walk downtown or, we're in our community. I think people are going to have more of an appreciation as to the local value and what it brings to their lives the longer that this goes on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
Chalmers, I think you're going to chime in as well.
Yeah, well, I was going to bring down to there's a lot of, like when we talk about tools as well, there's a lot of insight and advice that we have through our personal stories that are unrelated to our business that a lot of people really care about. And it's like when Steve brought his vehicle in, And we had noticed his license plate was paddles up. We started talking about dragon boating when you were leaving. There's so many of those personal stories that people can connect with, especially being a part of our local community.
Yeah, definitely. I think we got another question here. Just give me one sec. Oh, just some comments. So Elizabeth Slate from Northumberland Makers and part of the Venture 13 community. Hi, Elizabeth. She's saying, I'm really hoping that as we go forward, we see focus on local, provincial, Canadian. That's great to hear. Karen Major echoed, I agree, local collaboration will allow many businesses to not only survive, but thrive. And you see that actually in some of the hashtags like Stronger Together, Canada Resilient, this kind of thing. Yeah, I hope there's an opportunity for more of that to support each other. So I think maybe, unless there might be other questions, I'll put one last call out to the audience to throw something into the chat, group chat. And if not, I'd like to offer the panel an opportunity to give some quick final thoughts, and then I'll hand it over to Erica to explain how to sign up for a follow-up one-on-one session with one of our panelists. But maybe we could start with you, Carrie.
Yeah, I would just say if you're not out there doing it already and it scares you a little, the risk is worth it. You'll make some mistakes, and it's easy to get a nice video or picture of yourself if you just have daylight in your photo and you use your phone. This idea of good enough and putting yourself out there and reaching out to, I want to know how I can help for our communities. This is where I grew up, and any way that we can spread the word and figure out how to help you feel comfortable with that stuff. Interviews, podcasts, whatever would get us more connected. It matters to those of us living here.
Right on.
I'd say for me, if a lot of this is new to you, stuff we're talking about, we talked about Hootsuite, Buffer, HubSpot. They all have free resources on their websites where you can learn about social media marketing. You can learn about platforms. You can learn about how to post a blog, how to set up a website, even Shopify. Like they're great at that stuff. And so if you have the time, take a look at their academies. You sign up for a free account, you have access forever, and you're learning from industry professionals, people that have created the platforms, that can use them and teach on them every day. I would say be spending time learning those, and like Carrie said, don't be scared to just jump in and do it. Good is better than perfect.
Great. Chalmers, any final thoughts?
Yeah, and it's like Carrie said, just jump into it. There's a lot of research that can be done, but I think with the due diligence done, you'll find the passion with social media and bringing your business to digital for sure. Other than that, I think you guys nailed it.
Nice. Steve.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of just turning to the community that you currently work with. Seek out their advice. So you may ask, well, what did you use for your website? Or I'm thinking about an email program, are you using one? Can you give me a little bit of advice? You don't necessarily have to turn just to the vendors for that information and look for the free things, although that's a great resource, but don't be afraid to touch base with your circle, your advisors, your people that you respect. Don't hesitate to pick up the phone and call and just touch base and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What are your thoughts? How would I approach it? And get a little bit of guidance and advice from peers in your community. I love Carrie's approach of, you know what, you just gotta, jump in, make the effort. Don't be afraid of what you don't know. Is kind of what the messaging I was taking from Carrie is roll up your sleeves, jump in, get going, get started. And as we've all said throughout the conversation, good is good enough. You don't necessarily have to be perfect, because trying to be perfect, you get into this analysis paralysis, and you don't actually get stuff done at the end of the day. The other sort of final thought that I have is, we hear this phrasing a lot of, well, we're all in the same boat. And I kind of take a little bit of a different approach. We're all in the same storm. Each of us are in different boats. Every boat's a little bit different. And as you look at your boat, you might decide what you need to change. And that's probably the biggest thing that we could take out of today's call is don't be afraid to embrace some change. At the end of the day, we might learn something, and that's not a bad thing.
So I'm in a catamaran, you're in a Corvette class naval destroyer. I don't know.
No,
I'm just taking the analogy.
As Chalmers said, I'm in a dragon boat and I've got 20 friends with me.
Of course, a dragon boat.
But that's my hobby and addiction outside of work. But yeah, we're all in slightly different situations, and so don't be afraid to reach out to peers to understand, and don't be afraid to open up and be vulnerable in these times of challenges. Another great saying I heard recently from a peer was calm waters never built great sailors. And so we're in a pretty interesting time, and I'm excited about that. And that's why I wear this shirt, love the grind. That's what it's all about. Just love the grind. It's not just coffee.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Marky, did we get final thoughts from you?
We did.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I guess they weren't that memorable.
I guess not.
Just kidding.
What else can I think of right now?
No, I'm sorry. I just I couldn't momentarily remember if we had final thoughts from you. I'm sorry. But on that reaching out for help, that's a great segue into our follow-up session. So we wanted to give everyone a chance to connect with one of our speakers if you wish to carry on the conversation and take these ideas forward. So if Erica, are you available to just walk people through how they can set that up?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, John. Thank you, everyone. Carrie, Steve, Marquis, Chalmers, John, you guys are awesome. Such inspiring discussion, and really enjoyed that personally. And I'm sure everyone else on the line did. And I know that we could probably talk forever and dive down certain rabbit holes on different topics. And we did want to give everyone the opportunity to do that if they wish. The panel has been gracious enough to not only donate their time for today's session, but if anyone wanted to carry on a conversation, have a 30-minute conversation, 45-minute, we can schedule that through Venture 13, have a virtual chat with one of our 4 panelists. Up on the screen right now is kind of the topics that they've put up that they're experts in. If you wanted to talk to anyone. So I'll actually take the lead on that, scheduling it. My email is up on the screen. Just remember it's Erica with a K, erica.seggy@northumberland.ca.
NorthumberlandCFTC.ca, yeah.
Sorry, .ca. And I can be the middleman there and set up time with anyone that you wanted to link in with. So thanks again, everyone on the panel, for donating your time for that. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Erica.
Next week,
yep.
As a follow-up to this discussion, we have an hour slotted in with Marquis and a couple other colleagues of his that are going to be offering another webinar for Venture 13, online webinar. Actually, I'm going to put up the link in the comments because we have that Eventbrite live up on the V13 calendar, so you can register today for that, and I'll also get that out on social media. But we have an awesome topic that Marquis is going to be talking about, transitioning your business from brick to click. So again, just really leading off the discussion today, if you have more of a traditional storefront business, how do you get online? How do you market online and go into some of those specific tools? So that's happening May 14th. So register, take part in that. Again, we'll be promoting that on social channels as well.
That's awesome. I love brick to click, by the way. That's genius. Yeah. So good.
Genius. I did not coin the phrase. I wish I could take credit for it.
Okay, I was going to say, that's good. All right, so thanks, Erica. And again, thank you to the team at Venture 13, Lauren Reed and Melissa Graham, and Northumberland CFTC for sponsoring today's session. And again, thank you to the panel. I really enjoyed this. This was so much fun. And I think hopefully that was the same experience for the audience. It was great to have all of you with us, and thank you for participating in the chat. And I guess that's it. We're signing off today from Zoom, and thank you all for being with us.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thanks, Tom.
everyone. Have a great rest of the day and enjoy your lunch.
All right.
Cheers.
Thank you, Erica. Bye, everyone.
Bye.